Welcome to Sexuality and Truth with Phil Lees, the podcast where we uncover the realities of youth, sex, and the impact of cultural norms. Today, we're diving into sexual relationship guidelines. Bible and science agree. Join us as we explore the intersection of biblical wisdom and scientific research to understand the principles that lead to healthy relationships. Now, let's get into today's episode.
Here's something that might surprise you. Modern science has discovered that our relationship choices literally change our body chemistry. Recent studies show that casual hookups increase stress hormones by 80%, while committed relationships do exactly the opposite.
That's a fascinating biological perspective. How exactly did researchers measure these hormonal changes?
Well, there's this comprehensive study from the Journal of Family Psychology that looked at over 2,000 married couples, measuring everything from stress hormones to relationship satisfaction. The findings were pretty remarkable. Couples who waited until marriage for physical intimacy showed 22% more relationship stability and 20% higher satisfaction rates.
Those are surprisingly specific numbers. Did they look at long-term effects too?
That's where it gets really interesting. Even years into marriage, these couples reported 15% higher quality in their intimate relationships. And there's this fascinating Cornell study showing that rushing into physical intimacy often creates what they call fragile emotional bonds.
What exactly do they mean by fragile emotional bonds?
Think of it like building a house. If you put up the walls before laying a proper foundation, the whole structure becomes unstable. The research shows that couples who become physically intimate too quickly often skip crucial relationship building stages.
You know, that makes me wonder about the psychological impact of these different relationship patterns.
Well, this is where the data gets really compelling. Multiple studies show direct links between casual encounters and increased rates of anxiety and depression, particularly in women. The research indicates that teenage girls who engage in casual relationships often experience not just psychological distress, but also higher rates of substance use later in life.
That's quite concerning. How do they explain these gender differences?
It comes down to brain chemistry. Women typically produce more oxytocin, the bonding hormone, during intimate encounters, which can lead to stronger emotional attachments even in casual situations. And here's what's fascinating. This ties directly into this groundbreaking 2024 Wedded Bliss study that analyzed data from over 100,000 people across 7 countries.
That's an impressive sample size. What were their main findings?
The results were pretty striking. Unmarried individuals showed an 80% higher risk of experiencing depressive symptoms compared to their married counterparts. Even more telling, those who were divorced or separated showed nearly double the risk of depression.
So what you're saying is that our relationship status actually affects our mental health in measurable ways?
Exactly. And it goes beyond mental health. The physical benefits are equally impressive. Married individuals typically show lower blood pressure, better immune function, and significantly lower levels of cortisol, our main stress hormone. Cornell University did this fascinating study measuring these physiological differences.
That's really interesting how relationship status affects our actual body chemistry. What about the economic aspects?
The economic benefits are substantial. Married couples typically show greater financial stability, higher household wealth, and better retirement preparation. They're also more likely to own homes and invest in long-term financial planning, even when controlling for income levels.
Let's talk about the impact on children. How does growing up with married parents affect development?
This is where the research is particularly compelling. The Institute for Family Studies recently published findings showing that children of married parents typically show better outcomes across almost every measure, from academic performance to emotional stability to future economic success.
Those sound like significant advantages. Have they looked at why exactly marriage creates these benefits?
Several factors come into play. Married parents typically provide more stable environments, have more resources to invest in their children's development, and model healthy relationship behaviors. The research shows that having two committed parents working together creates what they call a multiplier effect on child development.
That makes me think about the broader societal implications. How does this affect communities as a whole?
The societal impact is substantial. Communities with higher percentages of stable marriages typically show lower crime rates, better economic outcomes, and stronger social cohesion. There's fascinating research showing that married couples are more likely to be involved in community activities and volunteer work. And
So it's almost like marriage creates this ripple effect throughout society?
precisely. And what's particularly interesting is how these benefits seem to compound over generations. Children who grow up with married parents are more likely to have successful marriages themselves, creating this positive cycle of social stability.
Looking at all this evidence, it really challenges our current cultural narratives about relationships, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. The data consistently shows that the traditional approach to relationships, emphasizing commitment and marriage, isn't just about moral values. There are real measurable benefits across physical health, mental well-being, economic stability, and social outcomes. And what's most fascinating is how these findings keep getting confirmed by new research across different cultures and time periods.
That's it for today's episode of Sexuality and Truth with Phil Lees. We hope this discussion has provided you with valuable insights into the biblical and scientific principles that guide healthy relationships. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to share it with parents, educators, and young people who can benefit from this message. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and all major streaming platforms. For more resources and upcoming events, visit https://peaceontario.com podcast Sexuality and Truth with Phil Lees. Until next time, stay informed, stay strong, and always seek the truth.